Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Notes My Goats podcast. I am Brandon, and I am running solo today on this Friday episode, guys. Steve had some family stuff come up, and he's like, well, here you go. You know, you're on your own. Just feed me to the wolves. So that is what he is doing, but it's okay. So, Steve, whatever you're doing, hope it all is good, and we'll get you back here on another episode. So today, guys, is a fun episode. It's going to be a good episode. I am super excited about this. Me and this guest we are a part of a podcast group together on Facebook, and every night, every week they post something out that says, hey, find a guest, be a guest. And from time to time we'll post out there, hey, we're a music review podcast. We want to, if you're interested in talking about a certain artist or an album, come on our podcast, come and hang out. We'd love to have you. And this guy reached out to me and was like, hey, I want to talk on your podcast, and blah 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 blah. Things happen. We finally narrowed it down to what we're talking about today. I'll have him introduce what we're talking about and who we're talking about. But first, let me introduce you guys to who is on the podcast. Guys, we have Podcaster, and man, I'm just looking at your studio, and that is one hell of a studio. I am only just a lot a bit jealous, but guys, please welcome to the podcast, Zaga. Zaga, how's it going, brother?
What is going on? Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been hyped. We've been talking about this since like December, I think.
It's been a bit. So yeah, I mean, life for Steve and I just gets crazy. We both have young kids, and so we're just constantly going and doing our own thing. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad we're finally here. So, without any further ado, without letting our fans, our fans probably can't read because, well, Steve and I are both from Cowtown. It is what it is. But for those of them who can read, I already know what we're talking about. But Zaga, who are we talking about, and what album are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about the one and only Logic, the most overhated rapper for whatever reason. I don't understand why. But we're talking about Logic, talking about his newest album, College Park. It is a goddamn classic. Wait, am I allowed to curse? I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, 100%. Say whatever you want.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. You know what? Now, you know what? You said that makes me feel right at home. I don't even need Steve anymore. That just makes me feel amazing. So,
Steve, all I'm saying is, Steve, I'm sure you're listening at some point in time here. I have a nice studio. I'm a pretty man. I have a beautiful beard. I'm bald too, so we match.
Oh my gosh!
It's a match made in heaven.
This is a match made in heaven. Absolutely, absolutely, it is. So, guys, as you know, Steve is the guy that does all of the Wikipedia research because that's what he does. And so because he is not here, he said, Brandon, here you go. So, Zaga, if I say anything wrong with this Wikipedia research, you can correct me, but ultimately, we're just going to blame Steve. So that's how it goes. So, guys, we are doing Logic in the album The Incredible True Story. Now, this guy's name...
doing College Park. I thought we were going to do his new one. Are we doing his old one? Or are we going to talk about his new one?
I thought we were talking about the Incredible True Story. That was the one. Let's
talk about both. Fuck it.
Sure, I listened to both. We'll do our own thing for sure. Hey, let's do it. Yeah. So, all right. So, well, let's talk about the Incredible True Story. That's the one ultimately that Steve and I were working on. But you know what? We're just going to talk a little bit about both. So that's how it's going to go. So this guy's actual name, not Logic. I mean, it is what it is, but it's Sir Robert Bryson Hall II. Now, Sir. Now, that is actually a part of his actual name. He is not he is not knighted, although I'm sure he would want to be. So,
oh, hell yeah.
For sure. I mean, wouldn't we all? Right? Exactly.
I really don't care if that old lady rubbed a sword on me, but
I mean, well,
it's kind of,
at least it would be her sword, and yeah.
I feel like it's a fetish if you want to be knighted. It's kind of a fetish, right?
For sure, I would think so. For sure. So this guy, Logic, is an American rapper, producer, and author from Maryland. Active from 2010 to 2020, and then again from 2021 to present. Known as kind of like a psychological young Sinatra, Bobby Tarantino, Dr. Destruction, that kind of thing is kind of the vibe that kind of goes along with this.
Well,
Guys, he's got
those are his aliases.
those are his aliases. Oh, got it.
Yeah.
See, all right. See,
So
there we go.
And I'll correct you a little bit here. So Young Sinatra. So the reason why he has different aliases is different styles of rap that he does. So like Logic is very peace, love, and positivity. Let's talk about change. He's biracial. It's all those kinds of things. Bobby Tarantino's all about the trap. He likes ass. He likes titties. He likes drugs.
Okay,
that's what Bobby Tarantino does. Young Sinatra brings it back to that 90s raw hip hop. I mean, I'm wearing his shirt that I got at his concert that has all his mixtapes and stuff on it. But the Young Sinatra series was all that underground, like it just felt grimy, and it was pure lyricism at its finest. And then Dr. Destruction was a new one. He kind of mimicked. I don't know if you're familiar with MF Doom.
I am a little bit. Steve probably is more than I am.
Yeah, so he does like this MF Doom type thing, changes his voice up, wears a mask, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Look at that, guys. We're learning new things. See, that's why I have you here. And
Psychological was his first name, and then he's like, this is dumb. Nobody's gonna say, have you listened to Psychological? And then
is that how Logic came up? Is that how Logic was born?
Yep.
Then? Okay.
Yep.
Got it. All right. That makes sense. So, guys, he's got 7 studio albums, 48 singles, 8 mixtapes. So what Steve has here says Logic does trace back his love of hip hop to Kill Bill Volume 1. The soundtrack of the Quentin Tarantino film was produced by RZA from Wu-Tang. RZA. See, I'm so white. So white. Yeah, this is fantastic.
I'm not gonna lie, that's literally one of my head right now. I was like, damn, he is so white. He said
I am
RZA.
I am so white. God, I feel right at home now.
So real quick, I have the Wu-Tang logo tattooed on me. So that's
do you really?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here, but I got the Wu-Tang logo with the Spider-Man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. I love it. All right. So the film set Logic, it set Logic on the path of discovery, and he started with Wu-Tang and the Roots to introduce himself into hip hop. In 2009, Logic released his first mixtape, and his growing popularity in Maryland led to him opening for Method Man, Ludacris. Is it Redman? See, look at that. And Pitbull.
Method Man and Redman. Yeah.
Okay. Method Man and Ludacris, Redman, and Pitbull. So Logic achieved mainstream popularity with his 2017 album, Everybody, which charted #1 in the US and was certified platinum. He has been nominated for 2 Grammys, no wins as of now. I would like to think that his new one, I would like to think that one will potentially be nominated. I mean, that's a pretty solid album from what I listened to today. So
the newest album is one of his best pieces of work that he's come out with. So like the most recent album is his first independent album he's ever put out, because he was signed to Def Jam forever.
Okay.
And he was so mad at Def Jam because all they wanted him to do was make pop music like he did. I'm sure you know Logic's song, the 1-800.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, great song, changed lives, saved lives, great messages stood for. But that's not who he is. He wants to make some type, like I don't know if you knew this about him, but he actually wrote a New York Times best-selling book called Supermarket.
I did not know that. That is insane. That's incredible.
And then he made a whole album to go with it. Now the album itself was all like indie rock. It was not hip hop. It had a hip hop influence, but it was mainly like an indie rock album.
Interesting. Okay.
Definitely it is a good book. I mean, it's definitely a teen book, and you can tell it's not from like a very good writer. It's written in first person, which is kind of the laziest way to write. But the story itself is very captivating and has a great twist ending. Worth watching, worth reading.
Okay. Yeah.
And his audiobook, the audiobook is actually done by him as well.
Oh,
so
nice.
Makes it better.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out for sure. So guys, he is said to say that his main inspiration for his music and personality, Frank Sinatra, is calling himself Young Sinatra. Logic does also credit Mos Def, Outkast, Drake, Eminem, Wu-Tang, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers as far as like influences for him and his career. So, Zaga, Steve likes to do this thing where he likes to ask the question, how many average monthly Spotify listeners do you think Logic gets in the course of a month?
Ooh, I'm gonna say at least 30 million.
At least 30 million? Okay.
I'm fact checking it right now.
As of whenever Steve did this, it was 12.1 million.
Okay, half.
Which is still a lot, because I would take personally just 1,000. I would take a good 1,000 Spotify listeners a month for this podcast.
I'll take 100. Fine,
well, shit, right? Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Oh, real quick, I just want to throw my plugs in. I have a podcast also called the NFA Pod. Okay. Nobody fucking asked. Go check it out. I get stoned, he gets drunk, and we talk about stupid shit, and it's really funny. Got some good guests coming on too.
Oh man, I love that. Perfect. So yeah, okay, let's talk about a little bit more of let's kind of jump right in here to a little bit of the Incredible True Story. We'll start with that one, and then you and I toward the end can dive into his new album a little bit, as we kind of talked about that. So
it's guys, trending. We have to.
It is absolutely trending, so we will definitely touch on it. So guys, the Incredible True Story, which was released November 15 of 2015, 18 tracks, 62 minutes long. Basically, this album tells a story that takes place in the year 2023. So here are some of the highlights from what Steve says. You take me for whatever. Here we go. So the US and Japan combined to form a super nation due to the effect of pollution and famine on the globe. Okay. This super nation and European nations formulate a plan to trade goods by transporting through China. China decides to be a high dick and charges lots of extra fees to facilitate this. The super nation colluded with Russia to assassinate the leader of China in exchange for Alaska. After the assassination is done, the king of Russia is also killed, and the Alaska deal is off. The Prince of Russia, pissed off about his dad being killed, nukes the U.S. and forces people back to the Midwest to help save the planet from the fallout and pollution. Scientists figure out how to clean the water and make it safe, but it affects livestock poisoning much of the population. 5 million inhabitants of Earth make it to a space station while the crew of the Aquarius III search for a planet named Paradise. Album reached number 3 on the Billboard 200 and number 1 on the hip hop charts. This one was certified platinum, having sold over 1 million copies. So that sounds very like it could probably happen in 2023.
Right, I feel like we're heading that way.
I feel like we're heading that way to some.
Logic is a prophet. He's a prophet
for sure, and I think that the United States will gladly trade away Alaska. So I mean, who needs Alaska? I mean, there's probably more moose and caribou than there is actual people. So
but just to stop you right there, though. So yes, the story of the album does not cover all of that. That's actually the first time I ever heard any of that. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
But the story picks up of them on the ship. Quentin Thomas, Kai, and Talia, who's the AI.
Okay.
And so, yeah, at the end of every song, they have their little skit talking about what's going on with that, which is a common thing in almost all his albums. There's always a skit.
Yes, which I loved. Like, it's one of those things where, I mean, it makes and I'll get into it a little bit, which makes the album so great. Like the fact that the construction of it flows so well and it's not choppy. There is that flow. So I love that.
Oh yeah. It makes you listen to every single song.
100%, because otherwise you'll miss stuff. So yeah, for sure. So let's kind of talk about it. Let's talk about the Incredible True Story. So let's talk about favorite tracks. Now I would probably pin you as like a super fan, or at least a very big fan of Logic. Do you have a favorite track from the Incredible True Story that is like your your favorite or one of your favorites?
Before this new album came out, there is a song called Intermission.
Okay.
It is by far my favorite one. It's track number 7. It's a vibe. It's a chill song. It's one of my go-to songs that I'm like driving with like the windows down, sunroof open, just hanging out. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan, by the way. I'm not like, I don't have like Logic tattooed on me or anything like that.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
Like, I'm a big fan because I found Logic on his second mixtape. And it's actually the same thing with Mac Miller. I actually found Mac Miller before, but back when he was Easy Mac.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And so when I found out, one, we were the same age. We went through similar struggles growing up, like, because I grew up in South Bronx. Okay. So for me, you know, the stories he was telling, his battle with being half black, half white. I'm half Filipino, half Italian. You would never guess I'm Asian. Right. Yeah. So I understand the internal struggle, the external struggle that he talks about constantly, of constantly dealing with, you know, your identity as who you are, you know, as your race or whatever. Yeah. And that's something that like I said, I don't look Asian. And when I go to a Filipino store and I want to buy Filipino food, I always get looked at. They're like, "You're not Filipino." I'm like, "Yes, I am. I promise." Yeah, for sure. I could never pass for a Filipino. I literally just look like Casper the fucking Friendly Ghost. So it is what it is. I could pass in a haunted house. That's where I could pass for sure. So okay, so for me, one of my favorite tracks on this one was actually Stainless. I think it's a hard song. That's a hard song. Yeah. So for me, about this track, from the moment this guy was just spitting bars so quickly. And that for me is one thing that I appreciate about a rapper, and one thing I appreciate from an artist like this. You know, there are a lot of rappers that can't do what he does in this track as far as that aspect goes. And it's so quick, it's so concise, and he is just so incredibly talented. And the story itself too is really good. So for me, that one's just an incredible listen. So that one for me, Stainless, was a favorite. So I do have one game, but we'll save it here after this next category because I'm kind of curious your thoughts on it. On the Incredible True Story, did you have a least favorite track or a track that maybe was more skippable for you? One that you're like, you know, I've heard this enough, or there's something about it that just doesn't quite do it for me? City of Stars. Okay. Why? It doesn't hit. I mean, it's a good, I'm not saying it's a bad song. Absolutely. But out of all this entire track, I mean, Fade Away, Upgrade, Like Whoa, Young Jesus, Intermission, I Am the Greatest, Lord Willin', Stainless, Never Been, like they're all bops. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, absolutely. You can vibe to every one of these songs. But City of Stars, it's like, it's not, I'm not feeling it. Right. For sure. No, I totally get it. For me, I actually thought that Run It was my least favorite. Now, the track's not bad. It's not bad by any stretch. This is where I like to make the caveat where it's not my least favorite. Like, it's not a bad track. It's my most skippable track. It's one that I would kind of just like. And that's where I'm at with City of Stars. It's like, it's not like I'm gonna skip it, but right. Yeah. But if I had the option for another song, I'm gonna play the other song. Exactly. You know, for me in this podcast, like, I have to fill the category. I guess I don't have to, but you know, I kind of run within a premises, you know, parameters. So that's so new to me. I'm completely off the rails on my show. I know. It's all good, man. So for me, I kind of find the high range noise. It's super particular, but there's this high range noise that was going on throughout the whole track. And for me, it was just entirely too annoying. As far as that just being there the whole time, I just couldn't get past that sound. Just that was all that it was just that one little thing that for me was like, I just was annoyed by it. So I know what sound you're talking about. Yeah, and it's just like you kind of cringe at it a little bit. And you're like, what is? You can almost kind of feel like, you know, you've got like you're waterlogged in your ears. There's like that ringing in your ears. You're like, what the fuck is this? But it is what it is. So that one for me, ultimately, Run It was my least favorite. So Zaga, we're going to play a quick game. It's kind of fun. Let's roll. It's called the Wang game. Guys, now it's time for the word association name game.
Wang, let's play Wang. Let's play Wang. Word association
All right, guys, you just heard that great theme song with Jair just saying Wang for 18 seconds because that's what he did. So, all right, so give a little bit of an explanation as to what this game is. If you are new to the Notes Goats podcast, this is the word association name game, WANG. And basically, I have taken 2 tracks from the Incredible True Story album, and I have word associated or added a phrase or made some stupid clue that may or may not make sense. It will make sense to the actual title of a certain track. And normally with Steve here, it would be Steve and Zaga trying to come up with what actual name or what actual track name from the Incredible True Story is the track that I'm talking about. So, Zaga, if you have the track list, here is your clue for one of the tracks on this album. There are 2 ways to say this word.
2 ways to say this word.
Yep.
Shit. I'm gonna assume. I'm assuming it's one word then. So
Probably.
I'm gonna go upgrade.
Ooh, very close. Nope. I'll give you one more guess.
Ooh, 2 ways to say this.
2 ways to say one word.
Babel.
Yes. There it is.
Babel and Babel.
Babel and Babel. Yep, absolutely. Guys, go check out when we did the Mumford and Sons album called Babel, whatever. And we did that one not like a year ago. So go check that one out. All right. Zaga, nice work. All right, buddy.
The only reason why I was able to guess that is because I said in my head, is that Babel or is that Babel? I'm like, that's 2 ways to say
it. There you go. See? There you go. All right. Next one. Rapper or water?
Rapper or water?
Yep.
Young Jesus?
Ooh. No, that's a good guess though.
Well, I'm thinking like rapper, young, Jesus, water. He walks on that shit.
Yeah.
Ooh, lucidity.
No.
God damn.
All right, one more.
Shit, you got me stumped here. Rapper or water?
Yep.
How the fuck does this tie in with any of the names of this?
Think more of it's an object.
That doesn't fucking help. Or a person.
Okay.
The cube.
Yes. Yep. The cube. So you got ice cube or.
It clicked in my head. I finally got it. It took a second.
Yep. There it is. There it is. So, guys, that was the word association name game. Hopefully you were playing along because that's always fun. Let's talk now quickly about if there's a track on this album that's kind of like our deep cut or a dark horse track on this one. I'll start with this one, and I picked Babel Babel, whatever. That's the one that I picked. Although this is a scene track, and it's not an actual like music-based track. I find it interesting the things that they talk about here. You know, they talk about just the story of what's happening. Just we're ruining Earth and how there won't be much left. And by the time, everything's are done, they're throwing out things in the future, which is, but like kind of like we talked about, like, yes, they're formulating it into like what 2023 would be. And it's like, man, a lot of this stuff is like, it could happen. Like it had, so it's like, well, so it just really got me thinking about what the world will look like kind of in the future and just what kinds of things kind of come and go and rise and fall during that time. So, and then, and the reference to the Tower of Babel was an interesting and definitely fitting coupling for this track. So that one for me was my deep cut track. Did you have a deep cut?
Oh, probably Never Been. I have to say Never Been. Never Been it's a little different from the rest of the album.
Sure.
As far as like his rapping style and what he's what he's trying to come across with. And it's more of a look introspectively about like him himself as a rapper, as a person.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get into kind of final thoughts on that album, and then we'll jump into to his new one. So what are your kind of final thoughts on The Incredible True Story? And then give it a random arbitrary rating from 1 to 10.
Uh, Incredible True Story. I mean, obviously, I'm biased 'cause I'm a fan.
Absolutely.
I've been a fan, but I think, uh, shit, I just lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
Just kind of what your final thoughts are on the album as a
Final
whole.
thoughts. Final thoughts. Sorry, I am a massive pothead, so you
Oh,
gotta
you're
forgive me.
good. No, you're good,
Memory
man.
shot.
Nope, I got you. You're good.
Final thoughts on the album. The album itself, it's an amazing sophomore album. In comparison to his first album, which was Under Pressure, um, that was like his breakthrough. You got a lot of that same what's it called, vibes from when he was a mixtape artist. It was kind of just a more polished mixtape with that first album. This one felt like a studio album. It made me envision what he's talking about. People, like, it's like when you read a book, like you start to create these characters in your head. And when you listen to these characters in the album, you start to create that too. And the music doesn't even, and this is weird for me because this album doesn't even feel like it's more music. I feel like this is a soundtrack to that story. Like if there was a movie made about this album would be a perfect soundtrack for it.
Absolutely.
Like I related the way I think about it is like Black Panther's album.
Yeah.
Similar concept, right? Like that album was perfect for that whole movie. Same thing for this one. This is perfect for his story.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
a grade, I think it's hard. It's hard for me to grade stuff because I'm a huge hip hop head.
Yeah.
So give me like how do you want me to grade this? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And normally when we have guests on the show, a lot of them are like, oh, 10 out of 10 because it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then we also have other people who are like, yes, it's amazing, but there's also some things that could have been better or things that I would have liked better. So
yeah. So I mean, like in forms of lyricism, I give it an 8 out of 10 in lyricism because his lyricism got better as his career has progressed. I think production value 10. I think it's beautifully, the transitions from the song to the skits are perfect. The length of it to me was perfect as far as how long the album was. And I think as far as just the songs in general, I'd give it a 9. Like I said, it's not his best piece of work, but it's pretty much up there. It's an 8 or a 9 would be where I'm at. For Logic's discography, it's an 8 or a 9. That's a good point.
Yep. For sure. So for me, this was actually the first time I actually listened to Logic as a whole. And obviously pleasantly surprised. So as our fans know this, Zaga, you don't. I majored in music in college. And so for me, I am very nitpicky when it comes to like constructions of albums and how they're put together. This one's damn near perfect. Like
that's what I'm saying.
The way that it's produced, because you have to be intentional about putting track on top of another track on top of another track, because you've got these skits that either follow, either precede or proceed, everything, like there's always this intricacy that ties literally all of them together, and it's perfect. It fits so well. So musically, this is produced this is produced well. Musically, tracks are crisp, and musically appealing. And obviously, this made me then want to check out his newest album, which we'll talk about shortly here, and just super good. I need to check out more as after all of this, but it's super good. So for me, all together, everything together, I'm actually going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. So you can't go wrong with it. I think it's definitely, if you like hip hop, you'll like this. If you like storytelling, you'll like this. You'll like this artist. So give that one a listen. So, all right, before we head out of here, let's talk about College Park. Now, this one is a 17-song album that dropped actually not too long ago, late February of 2023. And so let's just kind of talk about it. So it's, what do I got here? 17 tracks ish, a little over an hour long. What were some of your the things that you liked, disliked? Let's just kind of put it all together. What are your takeaways from this album?
Dislikes, nothing. There's not a single thing. I've listened to this album in its entirety at least 8 times, 9 times now, just straight through, because I do a lot of driving, so it's about an hour. Like I drive to my father's house. He lives an hour 40 away.
Okay.
So like it's a little over an hour long, 67 minutes.
Yep.
I'll listen to the entire thing. And then even when it's done, I'll go back to the beginning because it's that damn good.
It is.
And similar, that's why I wanted to talk about College Park, because I couldn't talk about TITS is the acronym for The Incredible True Story.
That is fantastic.
He did that purposely.
Did he? Okay. I like it. That's funny.
TITS. So TITS has that same storyline, that story, to it. And it makes me upset because you only get a little bit more of those that follow-up story with No Pressure.
Yeah.
Which was like not the previous album, but the one before that.
Okay.
The one where he was supposed to retire.
Sure.
He followed up with Kai and them for like a short period of time. And I was hoping that College Park would give us more insight to it, but it was even better because he's actually making like an anime series that kind of covers what this was all about. So this is like taking it back to when he was still living in Big Lembo's basement, still writing music. He was pretty much homeless because he was just living in his basement. I don't know if you know any real stuff about his history at all, do you?
No, I don't know. So go ahead, man.
Oh, so like Logic got kicked out, or he left his house. He was pretty much homeless. He told his best friend at the time, Big Lembo, like, can I stay with you? Whatever. The guy was like, yeah. He goes, give me 1 year, and I promise it'll be worth it. And no joke, like 1 year later, he had his first record deal. He brought all his buddies with him. And it's great because in this album, you see Big Lembo a couple of times. You see C. Castro is all over this album. I think he has like 4 or 5 different features.
Oh, absolutely.
Six is his original producer from his mixtapes. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. No.
So Six actually followed him. Obviously, when Logic became big, Six came with him, and he's been making his beats. Now Logic makes his own beats too now. But Six, I mean, I'm looking at the production. Six, Logic and Six, Boy Wonder with Six, Logic. Like,
yeah,
he trusted this guy to make his beats, and you said it yourself. The production quality is so next level with this guy, and for being first time independent, first time doing your own thing, not having the budget like a major label company will give you, and you have. Like these features to me, one are all over the place, completely all over the place.
Yep.
You got Seth MacFarlane, RZA and Redman, Static Selecta, Joey Badass, Nora Jones.
Right.
Where the fuck does Nora Jones come into this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got Lucy Rose, Bun B, Southern Classic, and you get these are pretty big name people.
Absolutely.
And you get them on, and not only do you get them on, you get them to be part of it. And this part of your story. I mean, this album to me it's one of a kind. It's next level. You get so many different versions of Logic in this album too.
Yeah.
Like pretty much, I would say out of all these songs, you get 2 songs that are pretty much could have fit on any of his albums that have ever come out in the past.
Sure.
And I don't know. I mean, this album blew me away. And the fact that it's trending right now because Seth MacFarlane literally sounds like Frank Sinatra is even crazier.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now, yeah, because when I looked at it this morning, I was looking through it and I was like, man, like I was just looking, all of these features are just incredible. And I saw Seth MacFarlane and I was like, what the fuck? So I'm like, I gotta check that one out. So that one
I'm gonna flip the script on you.
Oh man.
Because you don't have a co-host, so I'm gonna pretend to be your co-host.
I love it.
What was your favorite song of this album? Because you listened to the whole thing pretty much, right?
I did listen to the whole thing. Yep, absolutely.
So what's your favorite song on this album?
Oh man, it's
hard, right?
It is hard because all of them, and I'm not trying to, I'll answer the question, but it's one of those where you can pick a song, but at the same time, it's like all of them flow so well together. I'm gonna just off the cuff. I am going to go with Self-Medication. That is the feature with Seth MacFarlane for the sole fact that just looking at the track, you're like, okay, I know what Logic can bring, but you're like, what is Seth going to bring? Like, what is that going to look like? And the fact that he fucking brought it was like, Okay, so that one for me was it was definitely right up there with one of my favorite tracks on this album. But really, again, like if then we were to ask least favorite, I probably would say I don't have one, because
Yep.
this is one of those albums where, like you said, it from Tits to this one, there he grew a lot, and
Mhm.
musically, lyrically, this one is just that much better. So imagine what he's going to come out with if he comes out with another one in a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, or whenever it comes out. Like,
Oh, he just said on an interview that he has 5 albums ready to go.
oh, okay,
That's the crazy thing about this man, and I respect. And that's why I say he's the most overrated hip hop artist, because Joe Budden went on a fucking rant for like 20 minutes about how terrible Logic is. I'm sorry, Logic. Joe Budden came out with like one good song ever in his life,
sure,
and
yeah,
and Logic. This album, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, because you talk music all the time for your
all the time.
podcast.
Yep,
Most songs are only 2 minutes long.
yeah,
You're talking about out songs here 3 minutes 45 seconds, 4 minutes, 3 minutes 20 seconds, 5 minutes 15 seconds, 6 minutes 14 seconds, 3:29, 4:17, 8 minutes and 19 seconds for a song.
yeah.
That's impressive, man.
It
to
is.
keep somebody captivated, to not hit that skip button for 8 goddamn minutes.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to hear the goddamn story. Oh, also we do get Kai. I don't know if you heard it at the last song, track number 17, Light Year. Kai makes a little return.
Oh, okay. I'll have to re-listen to that one again. I'll have to re-listen to
it's not much. It's when they're all talking, you hear multiple voices at the same time.
Yeah.
But you hear Kai's voice in there.
Okay. I'll have to check that out again for sure. For sure.
But
oh man, yeah.
I think this album is a true testament to his growth, and I think that was the point of it, to show that, you know, I'm humbled, I'm happy with my life, and I can't believe where I got. Like, honestly, like we're both chasing a dream here, right?
Yeah.
We're chasing a dream to become famous podcasters. We want to be the next Logan Paul and have like awesome people on our shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to see somebody do it, and like I said, I've been following him for it's been a decade, dude. Over a decade.
Okay.
To follow this guy for so long, to then finally like see where he is now, and it gives hope. You know what I'm saying? Like, just put the ground, put the work in, and you'll see what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, some people might look at this and be like, "Oh, it's just an album," but like you and I can probably both agree that, like, you know, you can't really just pull a song out from this one and have it be necessarily like a jam. Like they all kind of it's a masterpiece. It's a piece of art. Like, it's the whole thing. You know, some people have single tracks that are just like super famous and popular. Like, this guy, I think, is going to be super well known for the storytelling that literally takes the entire thing as a collection and be like, you need to, I present you a collection and not just a random album full of songs that randomly fit together.
And I think the one thing that hurts Logic the most is that he looks white, which is why I'm all for it to keep talking about it more.
See, and that's funny because you say that, because I actually texted Steve today after I was listening to this album, and because there was some words that were said in the album.
Oh, he says the N-word a lot. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, so I texted Steve and I was like, just because I'm curious, and like Google doesn't help his case much. Like, when I Google search him, like, he looks pretty white. And it's
he's
like,
super nerdy looking. Yeah.
Yes, he is. And I'm like, is he white? And he goes, he's mixed. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Bro,
like,
even his pop figurine is like a little white guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So but yes. So yeah, I okay. Now thinking about, I would give this one like a 9.5 out of 10, if not a full 10. Like, this is just, that album is great. So
yeah, for me, I give it a 10. I mean, Intermission was my favorite song of Logic at nauseum. Like, my wife is so sick of hearing that song. Now, when this album came out, when he dropped the Paradise 2 with Norah Jones.
Yep.
To me, there couldn't have been a better guest feature on that.
Oh, for sure.
And I forgot how jazzy Norah Jones was, and he was actually on her podcast not too long ago, and I did some digging, and I was curious, like, how the fuck do you just randomly get fucking Nora Jones?
Yeah.
She hasn't been relevant since like the early 2000s.
Right.
She literally did a podcast episode with him. He was a guest.
Okay.
And they redid a song from Tits on her show live.
Okay.
They did Fade Away. And then from what I found out was they already had stuff going. So they're just like, oh, let's make a song. And he literally just made a song with her.
Oh.
And fun fact, Seth MacFarlane recorded his fucking verse in his living room.
What?
Yeah, okay. I know this is completely going off topic here, but
no, you're good.
I'm literally pulling up the TikTok just to show the world that this was, because Logic posted, because I mean, obviously it's trending that,
yes,
you know, fucking Seth MacFarlane's on his track.
Right.
But he posted a video of Seth just in his living room singing the fucking song. And I'm trying to find it now. And of course, I'll come back to that because now I can't find it.
Nope,
also the song, what's it called? High Life?
Yes.
The fact that you got Kevin Smith and Jay and the entire Clerks cast to film in your music video.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big nerd, man. I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah.
The fact that you got those guys, like, I'm a huge Clerks fan. I have Jay and Silent Bob pop figurines right next to me here.
Nice.
And like, to get them to not just get Kevin Smith to film your music video, but just to get the whole cast.
Right.
The fuck?
Right. Insane. Absolutely insane.
The guy's living out my dream life, and this is probably why I'm such a big fan of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and he's also one of those guys where he's got some notoriety and he's pretty like popular, but at the same time, he's just kind of riding a wave, his own little wave, and just kind of doing his own thing.
I found the video. It was pinned this whole time, by the way, so that's why I couldn't find it.
Nice.
But look, just in his living room. Just in his living room.
Oh my gosh.
Just recording. Not a studio, nothing, just in his living room recording a banger, a #1 song.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Incredible. That is incredible. So, guys, that was us talking about Tits, or The Incredible True Story, and we kind of broke down a little bit of College Park. So, Zaga, thanks for coming and hanging out with me for a little bit today.
Absolutely, man. That was fun.
Sans Steve. The next time we'll get you back on the podcast with Steve.
I feel like I deserve it now. Steve's not here.
Absolutely. And I really hope that you give him some shit in our Facebook group because he deserves it. So before we head out tonight, though, tell our tens of fans here at the Notes My Goats podcast where they can find you on socials. You
can find us everywhere. Literally everywhere. I have went through the depths of hell. If you want to find my podcast and you have some obscure podcast program, I don't know what you like. Apparently we're on Podbean. No joke. My co-host texted me right in the middle of the show here, and he goes, "What the hell is Podbean?" We're on Podbean. There you go, man. Find us on Instagram, TikTok. We got a ton of TikToks coming out soon. Okay. I have legitimately stowed away like 30 of them, so I can flood the TikTok market. Yeah, absolutely, man. So you're gonna see our faces on TikTok at some point or another. I love Facebook. Go on Facebook, shoot us a message. If you have Spotify and you happen to listen to our show, I do surveys and little questionnaires. Please answer, because we don't know what the fuck to talk about on our show half the time because we're too baked. It's a true story. Yeah, there you go. But no, yes, the NFA pod, check it out. I'm Zaga. I'm so happy I was on the show. This was a lot of fun. I love talking about Logic. Yeah, man. Fun fact, I was supposed to have a hip hop podcast with my partner. My co-host, and he knew nothing about hip hop when he signed up for this. And so that's why we don't have a hip hop podcast anymore. Oh, that's sad. It was a great idea. It was called Hip to the Game. I was like, we review an album for the first half. We talk about sports the second half. Yeah. And when I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God, Nas's album was so lyrically amazing. And he was like, yeah, it was good. I'm like, well, what lyric, what bar caught your attention on that? He goes, what's a bar? Oh no. I'm like, I'm done here, bro. I'm done. I had a friend who's a hip hop producer, and I invited him on the show. My co-host was silent the whole time. He had no questions. Oh no. I'm like, what are your influences? And he's like, oh, I love A Tribe Called Quest and this. I'm like, yo, I love Tribe, Midnight Marauders, this and that. And I'm like, yo, Colin, you listen to Midnight Marauders? Like, oh, I don't even know who that is. I'm I hate you. I'm like, why'd you sign up for this show?
Right.
So now we're the NFA pod because nobody fucking asked for this podcast, and yet here we are.
And there you are. Absolutely. So that's awesome. Yes, and I'll put all of your stuff kind of in the show notes, and then so that way our fans can find you. So, guys, as far as the Notes McGoats podcast, you can find us on Instagram you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Notes McGoats Pod. You can find us on Facebook. Search the Notes McGoats podcast. You'll see our logo. Nate. He's Nate the Goat chomping on a record. He's my background. So we are technically on Twitter, but we don't really post on Twitter much because, and this is where I would say, and then Steve would say, fuck Elon Musk. And fuck Twitter. Yeah, exactly. So we don't really post there anymore, but we're there. So whatever. So guys, you can also now 2023, Steve and I are venturing into the video content. So you'll see a lot of TikToks from us. You'll actually see all of our episodes at some point. Steve's working through all of that because, graphics guy, aka Steve, got a promotion, and now instead of just doing graphics, he's doing video. And so you can find us now on YouTube. On YouTube, search the Notes McGoats podcast. You will find us there as well. Guys, this has been another episode of the Notes McGoats podcast. That guy is Zaga, and I am Brandon, and we will see you guys on Tuesday. Notes McGoats. Notes.